100-year-old giant beast suddenly woke up, but the people of Chicago did not realize the seriousness of the matter. They took out their mobile phones and took pictures. They did not know that they would pay a painful price for their own destruction. The giant beast's roar was so loud that people fled in panic. Unfortunately, it was too late. The consequences of angering a 100-year-old giant beast is a catastrophic disaster that humans around the world cannot escape. The story starts with Norway a few days ago. The Secret Research Institute found a sleep-inducing mountain monster. Its physiological structure is extremely strange. Its body structure is similar to that of a forest bug, but its genes are closer to that of a cloud mountain tree. The researchers found a real sleep-inducing individual this time. They suspect that other mountains may contain the same kind of mountain monster. Therefore, in order to prevent the future mountain monster crisis, they decided to carry out research on it. Biologist Nora came to the rescue. The researchers said that the mountain monster was found inside the mountain monster. It has been in a deep sleep state and can detect the weak pulse in its body. Although it cannot predict the awakening time of the mountain monster, the institute has already installed ultraviolet lights around the mountain monster. The strength is enough to realize it again in the moment of its awakening. This shocking scene left Nora in a daze. However, it did not give her too much time to think. Engineer Andre excitedly brought her to the second floor. He showed Nora the law of the mountain monster signed by the King of Norway 1,000 years ago. It recorded the origin of the mountain monster in detail. Once a human finds a sleeping mountain monster in the mountains, he must expel it from this land. This also reminded Nora of her childhood memories, but the content is completely different from this law of the mountain monster. The human and the mountain monster coexist in harmony. However, during the reign of King Street, Olaf, he was committed to Christianization. The mountain monster, as the legendary creature of ancient Norway, is in contrast to the Christian concept. Therefore, Street, Olaf expelled and even slaughtered the mountain monster. The mountain monster could only survive in the mountains. When Nora was a child, she only took it as a fairy tale. But after reading the ancient text, she finally confirmed the authenticity of the story. However, Nora did not expect that even if the mountain monster was hidden in the mountains, it could not escape the claws of humans. This also gave Nora a bold idea, so she took the excuse to go to the bathroom and left the scene quickly. She took the elevator all the way to the mountain monster. She decided to use her father's ancient song to wake up the mountain monster. But the mountain monster did not respond. This made Nora a little angry. When she turned around and left, a miracle happened. Looking at the golden eyes in front of her, Nora could not contain her excitement. She could not help but cheer for the mountain monster. She did not know that her kind gesture would bring disaster to humans. The huge sound of the monster instantly aroused the attention of the researchers. They were shocked by the mountain monster's awakening. They wanted to start the defense system until it was about to break the shackles of the chain. But Mary did not agree with their approach. She spilled the coffee directly on the controller. Suddenly, the sound of the monster's alarm echoed throughout the research institute. The defense system also failed. Andrea was shocked and hurried to call Nora to leave. But in the elevator, she was avoided by the angry mountain monster. Everyone could not help but wipe a sweat for Nora. The mountain monster was about to step out of the isolation area. She ran to Andrea's side in time. This made her lucky to escape. However, at this moment, in the corner where no one noticed, a collected sample of the mountain monster suddenly collapsed. Dr. Mary, who was hiding in the corner, quickly put it in her pocket. Until the man was killed by the mountain monster on the spot, everyone realized the seriousness of the matter. They hurried to the exit direction and finally escaped at the last moment of the collapse of the institute. Looking at the familiar and unfamiliar world in front of her, the mountain monster was a little confused at first. But soon she found the direction, took a firm step and walked far away. No one knew the ultimate purpose of the mountain monster. All they knew was that the disaster against humanity had officially begun. Soon, the Norwegian military received an order to welcome the 4 people to the base and discuss the countermeasures. Prime Minister Bullen paid particular attention to this matter and asked Mary for her opinion. Who knew they had different opinions? Nora wanted the mountain monster to return to nature and was thought to be a human obstacle. This was the only way to make them so cruel. However, Mary wanted to regain control of the mountain monster. Once their research was successful, it would make a huge contribution to the field of human biology. It's just that behind the dispute between the two sides, Prime Minister Bullen had already made up his mind. That's why I have to do it now. I should have done it a long time ago. I want it to be terminated in the middle of March. This made Mary and Bullen a little impatient. Although they still wanted to persuade the Prime Minister, the plan had no room for reversal. Just when Nora was desperate, she found out that the executor was an old friend of hers, Chris. So she got her hopes up again and decided to follow the military to track down the mountain monster. On the other side, in the snowy mountains far away from Norway, the climbers were having a lively party. Unexpectedly, just as they were recording their lives, an uninvited guest joined the party at this time. Looking at the terrifying face of the mountain monster, people were not at all terrified. Instead, they took out their phones and recorded this magical scene. They didn't know that this action would cost the climbers a terrible price. In a matter of seconds, dozens of climbers became the dinner of the mountain monster. It was only then that people realized the seriousness of the matter and hurried to escape. Unfortunately, it was too late. Just when the situation became critical, fortunately, the military helicopter arrived here. Faced with the brutal violence of the mountain monster, the military did not hesitate to activate the infrared light and rushed to the mountain monster. This move was also effective. Just when the light touched its skin, the mountain monster made a painful scream. However, the military's attack was not enough to eliminate the mountain monster, so they were ready to launch another attack. They couldn't avoid the attack just now, but let the mountain monster be prepared. At that moment, the equipment next to the helicopter hurriedly hit the helicopter. The climbers were lucky to escape, but their teammates were not so lucky. In a hurry, the mountain monster took the opportunity to hit the helicopter and lost its ability to fly. They had no choice but to die. Seeing the fallen mushroom cloud below, Chris could not bear the pain and decided to fight the mountain monster. However, it was obvious that without the cooperation of his teammates, the rash action was almost as good as death. Fortunately, Nora persuaded him in time so that Chris did not act impulsively. However, the mountain monster seemed to have realized their idea and showed a frivolous expression. This made Chris angry and wanted to eliminate the mountain monster and avenge his brother. But no matter how much he struggled in front of absolute strength, it was of no help. This also made Nora recognize the true face of the mountain monster, but she was still sure that not all mountain monsters are as cruel as this one, just like humans have good and bad parts. Thinking of this, Nora suddenly had an inspiration. Perhaps she could communicate with her teammates through the mountain monster to stop this disaster. So she went to the cave to look for the mountain monster. It is said that humans wanted to kill the mountain monster, so they kidnapped his child as bait and lured the mountain monster into the trap to kill him. Even in order to test his ability, they engraved Christian symbols in the cave to ensure that it would cause fatal damage to the mountain monster. However, the mountain monster eventually survived, but his child had not been found. Some people say that the little mountain monster is dead, but no human has ever seen his body. Whether the legend is true or not, this is the only hope of a few people to fight against the mountain monster. With anxiety, Nora took out the sample of the mountain monster and knocked it to the ground, but there was no reaction in front of her. This also made everyone's mood sink into the bottom of the valley. Unexpectedly, Andrea suddenly felt the breath of the wilderness, which belonged to the mountain monster. And in front of her was the long-lost little mountain monster. Nora was shocked when she saw it. In order to prevent the little mountain monster from being scared, she still held back her excitement and managed to win the trust of the little mountain monster. At the same time, the mountain monster still did not know their plan, and was moving in the direction of her memory. But the old man next to her did not feel the happiness of the new house, and was suddenly destroyed by the sudden appearance of a huge object. But compared to the skier who was eaten, at least the old man survived. According to the trajectory of the angry mountain monster, Nora took a flare gun and stopped his inevitable journey, and handed the battlefield to the little mountain monster, only to see that they were communicating in the language of the lone mountain monster. At first, it seemed to work, but soon the roar became more intense, and it eventually turned into a war. Although Nora ran away from the school, she did not expect the little mountain monster to be in such a hurry. Unfortunately, she was swallowed by the cold sea water. Thinking of the pitiful eyes of the little mountain monster, Nora felt guilty and blamed herself. She thought it was her own smartness that led to the death of the little mountain monster. However, it was not a sad event. Before the next attack of the mountain monster, Nora, who was quickly drawn up, finally got on the helicopter at the last moment of its attack. Seeing that the helicopter was gradually flying away, the mountain monster was forced to give up the attack and continued to move in the direction of the target. Thinking of the eyes of the little mountain monster when he died, Nora wanted to pull out his skin and vowed to make him pay a painful price. But could she do as she wished? As Nora was immersed in sorrow, she recalled the route of the little mountain monster. But Mary suddenly had a new discovery. She felt that the little mountain monster seemed to have a certain goal, which seemed to be the way to the victory of mankind. This caught Nora's attention at the same time. Judging from the direction of the little mountain monster's movement at this moment, the destination was certainly the Holy Orphean Church, which was also the king who officially issued the rules of the little mountain monster. Obviously, the secret of the mountain monster's anger was hidden in it. So without further ado, the group of people rushed to the Holy Orphean Church immediately. Following the steward's instructions, they entered the inside of the church and came to the mural in the basement. It is said that this was once the tomb of Saint Olaf, but later it was moved away by someone secretly. This also gave a few people a sense of hope. However, after a general exploration, there was no other clue except for the mural on the wall. Just when the steward thought there was no hope, unexpectedly, Anderley accidentally discovered the secret of the mural. This scene shocked the steward. Just when Anderley thought he was in trouble, the steward suddenly connected all the clues. On the mural, there are traces of repair on the body of Saint Olaf. It corresponds to his injured position in the historical record. First of all, his thigh was cut. The second is that the long hair is inserted into the abdomen. Finally, it is the fatal wound on the neck. The opportunity to solve the riddle was just around the corner. When Anderley moved, he decisively pulled the torches around and inserted them into the gap. And one side is the answer that everyone is looking for. With excitement, they quickly walked into the secret room and found the body of Saint Olaf in it. Obviously, he was not transferred. It's just that as time went by, everyone forgot about his existence. On the body of Saint Olaf, they found the other half of the mountain monster. This made Anderley realize that it was not good. He hurried to contact the Research Institute to identify the text above. The truth finally came to light. It turned out that Saint Olaf had never thought of expelling the mountain monster. Instead, he thought they were part of life and decided to provide the mountain monster with a shelter that only belonged to them. Unexpectedly, this proposal was strongly opposed by the church. This is also the reason why Saint Olaf was murdered. It's just that the mountain monster didn't know all this. He blamed the anger of the people who were killed on everyone. So the mountain monster was not going to take revenge on Saint Olaf, but to destroy the whole of Norway, and even destroy all humans. In fact, as Anderley expected, the mountain monster's arrival caused serious damage and injury. With the rise of public opinion, this incident caused widespread enthusiasm internationally. Once the mountain monster's plan succeeds, humans all over the world will be in danger. Now they are the last line of defense and can't hurt the mountain monster. What did humans do in those days to make the mountain monster so strong? Thinking of this, Saint Olaf suddenly looked at the book in his hand and finally knew the deadly weapon that could hurt the mountain monster. It turned out that the reason why humans chose to fight with silver swords was not because the mountain monster was afraid of expensive metal materials, but to prevent the holy water from being stained. So it was too late. Everyone quickly called on the local residents to transport a large amount of holy water to the army. With their cooperation, the army stored a large amount of bullets in no time. But it wasn't over yet. They had to use limited ammunition to make a trap that could defeat the mountain monster. Under the plan of Chris and others, the city was soon filled with deadly traps. Although no one was sure that the mountain monster could be eliminated, in the hearts of all the people on the scene, compared to Saint Olaf being destroyed by the monster, they unanimously decided to use their lives to build the last line of defense for humans. It's just that behind the hard work of everyone, will fate stand by their side? As the night fell, the roar of a lion suddenly spread all over the land. The mountain monster still came here. Antoine first knocked on the church gate. Although the bell can't hurt the mountain monster's fingers, it can seriously affect his mind. Under the continuous knocking, the mountain monster's painful ears made a terrible roar. While he was distracted, Chris ordered the soldiers to attack. In an instant, the bomb containing the holy water rolled over the mountain monster and scorched his skin made of earth. Under their fierce attack, the mountain monster had no resistance and had the idea of retreating. This gave Olaf a sense of hope. Unexpectedly, there was also a change in their minds. Since their attack angered the mountain monster, without the interference of life, it was like a devil who crawled out of hell. It was the first line of defense for humans. At this critical moment, fortunately, Chris was ready and immediately launched the second line of defense. But as more holy water sprayed out, the skin of the mountain monster was seriously burned. But not until a few people started to celebrate that the holy water was dried by high temperature, the mountain monster was restored to its original appearance. The defense specially designed by humans was completely lost. A few people had to retreat immediately, but how could the wounded mountain monster let them go? At this critical moment, Olaf was about to be crushed by the mountain monster. Unexpectedly, another mountain monster shouted. Just as Olaf dared not to believe, the mountain monster came to the rescue. It turned out that it was not swallowed by the ice fox, but always remembered the promise with Olaf and followed the smell of the dead enemy all the way. And now the real battle has just begun. It's a pity that the little mountain monster is not an adult after all. Under the attack of the adult mountain monster, he soon fell into the abyss. This made Olaf unable to sit still. He couldn't watch the little mountain monster die. At this critical moment, Mary thought of the weakness of the mountain monster in time. The Research Institute had found a mountain monster body. There is also a heart in it to maintain life. If the holy water can be poured into the mountain monster's heart, it may be able to kill it completely. This gave Andre inspiration. He decided to imitate the action movie protagonist and drove the helicopter to the mountain monster's body. Then he found the opportunity to throw the bomb into the target's mouth. However, this crazy plan was denied by everyone. Just didn't wait for them to think of a better way. The little mountain monster was completely suppressed by the adult mountain monster. Soon it would be completely killed by it. In a hurry, they could only use Andre's advice. In order to give Andre time to fight, Olaf took the lead and held the weapon and continued to attack the mountain monster. Without a sound, the other party did not move at all. When the situation became more and more critical, the butler and Mary decisively took up their weapons and joined the battle. With the cooperation of several people, the mountain monster was finally intimidated by them. But at this moment, something went wrong with Andre. Although Andre reacted first to catch the bomb, the detonator fell at a critical moment. They could only manually activate the bomb inside the bucket, which is to detonate the bomb with a grenade, and the safety pin must be removed at the moment the bucket entered his mouth. The difficulty of the task is imaginable, but if you want to do it, you have to have someone jump off the bomb and detonate the grenade with a safety pin. In this way, the mountain monster can be completely eliminated, but those who activate the bomb will also die. As a result, Andre, who has always been decisive, hesitated, and now he has just become a father and has not witnessed the birth of a baby. His happy life with his wife has just begun. How did he come to this step of saving the world? It's a pity that there is no time left for him to think. Under the continuous attack of the three below, all the ammunition was almost exhausted, and the mountain monster still did not move. Mary shouted at them to evacuate, but Nora did not dare to give up the little mountain monster. Maybe since he found that the little mountain monster had not died, he swore that he would not let him sacrifice for mankind again. So Nora ignored Mary's persuasion and collected the ammunition nearby to attack the mountain monster. Under his endless efforts, the mountain monster finally moved his feet towards him. In a short while, Nora would be crushed by 1 foot. At the last moment, Andre made the final choice and gave the pregnant wife his last goodbye. But looking at the face of his beloved, Andre could not say goodbye. This also made his wife notice the abnormality and understand what her husband was going to do. It's just that God didn't give them a chance to say goodbye. As the copter entered the target position, the signal was interrupted. In the end, Andre had no choice but to carry the infinite regret and embrace the holy water to welcome his inevitable end. The bomb was successfully detonated in the mountain monster's body. The golden light pierced through the dark night's strength and made the original arrogant mountain monster gradually collapse. It also gave the little mountain monster a chance to fight back. But the price of this victory was their freedom of Andre's life. After that, people returned to a peaceful and happy life again. The ruined church building was rebuilt. Andre's child was born successfully under the care of his old friend. And the little mountain monster, who was a great hero, also reached an agreement with the government and lived in their own territory. No one would disturb their family. But behind this peace, the story of the mountain monster is not over yet. Only because in a remote and dark laboratory, the doctor who picked up the sample of the mountain monster had not given up his research, but in his endless efforts, he accidentally mastered all the secrets of the mountain monster. The movie ends here. The ups and downs of the movie caused readers to think deeply, especially the deep inner peace hidden in the movie made the monster no longer a pure villain. Their outburst was due to the destruction of their families and the massacre of their tribes. In essence, it was a self-sacrifice for humanity. The setting of the mountain monster is a direct reflection of the modern climate crisis, which makes the theme of nature no longer a hollow narrative. And the movie is even more profound. The mountain monster's rule of law and the reversal of the image of the holy Orpheus reveal the power of manipulation of the truth and make reconciliation a more important issue than annihilation. It triggered 1,000 years of hatred between humans and monsters and pointed to the ultimate thinking of how humans coexist with different species. If you are interested, you can watch the original movie.